Thank you, Sesimpo. Good evening, everyone, once more. As Sesimpo indicated, today we're going to unpack the issues of cohabitation, lobola challenges, customary marriages, and also the civil marriages. Indeed, we encounter a lot of problems when we are not legally advised. So today I'm here to assist you. Take this opportunity to ask any questions. So I will try to be brief on my presentation so that I can allow you to ask as many questions as you want. So we're going to start with the cohabitation. So on cohabitation, firstly, what is cohabitation? Cohabitation is when two couples, they are living together. And when they are living together, it resembles the marriage. So now you will need to know where you stand when you acquire assets together with your partner, where else your marriage is not legally registered. So for cohabitation, it can only be monogamous. It can be between a male and a female or same-sex marriage. So however, the cohabitation relationship, it has two exceptions. What are these two exceptions? When you are cohabiting with someone, you do not have any legal rights or obligations that you need to fulfill. So what do I mean by this? If you are not married and you are staying with your partner, and then you decide that you want to acquire property, if that property is registered in one spouse's name, then you, as the partner, you do not have any legal rights or legal obligation towards that property. So there are ways that you can do if you are cohabiting with someone, if you are staying with someone and then you are not married with that person. You can either approach an attorney. When you approach an attorney, you can tell that attorney that you want to do what you call the cohabitation agreement. Your cohabitation agreements normally regulate or formalize the financial arrangement. And then your cohabitation agreement also, it needs to be in writing. So on your cohabitation agreement, you must state that you are acquiring property, and then what must happen, it must be stipulated, what must happen when you decide that this relationship is not working for me. So what do you do? What happens to that property that you acquired together? It must also show your contribution as to whom the property is going to be registered on, or who will be liable for the bond. So normally what happens is, if you do this cohabitation agreement, if it happens that your marriage doesn't, your living arrangements doesn't work out, the relationship comes to an end, then you are able to claim for what you have contributed in the marriage. So normally, if you do not enter into this cohabitation agreement and you acquire property, the property belongs to the person whom it is registered on. The person whom does not have anything, then it means at the end of the marriage, at the end of this relationship, you don't have a claim. As I've indicated, that you won't have the legal rights or the legal obligations. And even the courts, they cannot help you as to reclaim everything that you have contributed towards your marriage. So it is very advisable that when you are living with someone and you are not married to that someone, it is better that you do this cohabitation agreement. And you must also state in that cohabitation agreement that should it happen that this relationship does not end up in marriage, then what happens to your property? So we must also take it into consideration that should you not have this cohabitation agreement, your partner passes on, you do not have the legal right to inherit if your partner didn't leave a will. So if your partner fortunately left a will and you are included in that will, then you will be able to inherit the assets as according to the will. But should it happen that your partner passes on and you do not, the partner doesn't have a will, it means your partner died interstate succession. So when they die interstate succession, it means they do not have a will. So it means that you check when one dies without a will, we check that was this person married? If not married, does this person have kids? If they don't have kids, then we check, does this person still have parents? If still they don't have parents, then we check, does this person have siblings? So if it gets to that point where there is no one, or there's no one that can be located to claim your inheritance, so your inheritance will go to the guardian account. That account stays for 30 years. Your inheritance will stay for 30 years. And then if there's no one who will come to claim for that, then it gets forfeited to the spouse. So if we are partners, we are not married, we do not have this cohabitation agreement, one passes on, and then the estate of the deceased will be inherited by the kids. Vice versa, if the kids are not there, then your parents, then your siblings. So on the cohabitation aspect, I think I have covered what Sesimpo was saying earlier on. So I'm not sure if should I continue to the lobola challenges, or there are questions with regards to the cohabitation. Sesimpo?
Hello. No questions from my side.
Also, I should just continue.
I'm not sure about Facebook, but here on Zoom there are no questions.
Okay, thank you. So let me just continue. With lobola challenges, we don't have much lobola challenges. I was glad when Sesimpo also indicated this, that what happens when the bride's family ask for more? What happens when the negotiations takes longer, and sometimes you end up breaking up as a couple because of these challenges that you have with the family? So the disadvantages of that is that when legally we don't have any remedies with regards to what happens when they charge too much. It means generally, if they charge too much and the man feels that he cannot do this anymore, then it results to the couple ending their relationship. That is a personal choice. With regards to the law, we don't have any remedies for when you are unable to pay lobola. So it takes us back to the topic that we were discussing about cohabitation. So you decide amongst yourself that how do you divide the property that you acquired together. So on that cohabitation, I forgot to state this, that when you have property and then at the end of the relationship, if the property is registered in both your names, then it means you've got equal shares. So should the relationship comes to an end, you have your shares to that property because it is registered in both your names. So should you have the cohabitation agreement and you fail to distribute the assets that you have acquired together, you are able to approach the court, and then the court will appoint what we call receiver and liquidator. So the receiver and liquidator, normally it's an attorney who is qualified to be appointed as such. Then that attorney will assist as to how do you distribute your assets. So normally there can be one spouse who says, I can buy you out, I can give you 50% of what this property is worth. So if you agree, you can be reinvest your monies for 50% of what the property is worth. So I will move to customary marriages. The customary marriages were recognized on the 5th of November 2000. What is a customary marriage? Customary marriage, normally it's concluded according to different customs. So it's your culture. We've got different cultures, so it revolves around what your culture entails. So I will speak for myself. I am Tsonga. So in our language, in our culture, when you supposed to get married, your husband or your fiance's family, they're supposed to write a letter to your family to say that they have seen umakoti and then they want to come and pay lobola. So that can be different according to the cultures. So when they do that, and then they will ask for a date as to when can they come to pay this lobola. The lobola should be negotiated. So there are also requirements of a valid customary marriage. So for one to conclude a customary marriage, you must be 18 years of age or over. You must also consent that you are entering into a customary marriage. The marriage must also be negotiated. It must be celebrated. Makoti must be handed over to the husband's family. However, with the handing of umakoti, it's still a problem legally that it's not supposed to be part of the requirements for a valid customary marriage. If you can remember the issue that WHP's wife had, she had to go to court, she had to approach the court for her to be given the rights to bury her husband. Why did she do that? WHP had paid lobola for her. So the marriage was negotiated and it was celebrated. Then she was successfully given the right to do what? To bury her husband. So in the customary marriages, this is the only marriage that allows men to have polygamous marriages. Polygamous marriages is when a man is having more than one wife. So you can be 2 wives, 3 wives, or whatever the case is. So normally, the customary marriage, when it's between a man and a wife that's monogamous, you are regarded married as in community of property. So I will later on tell you about what is community of property. So the customary marriages, they also regarded as, they deemed as you are married in community of property. So for the customary marriage, I've said that lobola must be paid. It must be negotiated, and it also must be celebrated. It doesn't matter that you paid half lobola or you paid full lobola, but you didn't register your marriage. So if you didn't register your marriage and lobola has been paid, that means that you are married customarily. So for a man to conclude a polygamous customary marriage, they don't just go pay lobola today to this woman, and then the next 3 months they pay lobola to the other woman. They need to approach the court. When they approach the court, then the court can give them a written contract as to how the marriage is going to financially, how is it going to work, and then these marriages, they are regarded as marriage out of community. Please mute yourself. They are regarded as marriage out of community of property. So as I've said that later on, I will be talking about what is marriage in community of property, out of community of property. I will also enlighten you about that. So the customary marriages, when it's between 2 people, then it's deemed to be marriage in community of property. When you are in a polygamous, it's deemed to be out of community of property. So as I've indicated, you don't just get married out of community of, you don't just get into a polygamous marriage. You must be granted an order and a contract by the court to be in the polygamous marriage. So should it happen that a man just decide to go marry many wives without that contract, the second marriage will not be recognized. So you must be very much aware of that you should ask these questions to your partner. Did you get a contract? Did the first wife also agree to be in a polygamous marriage? That is very important. So one other thing about customary marriage, people tend to get married customarily. They pay lobola, and then sometimes you find that the relationship doesn't work out. They do not end their customary marriage. Customary marriage should only be ended by a court order. So you don't just fight and then orally it's over, and then that suffices. That's not sufficient. You need to approach the court to grant you what we call a decree of divorce. And also, since you are married in community of property, you get the shares of the estate. So should you find yourself in a situation whereby your partner once paid lobola to someone and now they are married to you in civil marriage, you must know that customary marriage takes precedence. What do I mean by this? It happens that the man paid lobola and then now decides to marry civil. And then one day God decides to remember your spouse. What happens to you as a wife who is married in a civil marriage? Then if the wife who was married customarily doesn't come and give you problems, then you will be blessed. You would go work away with everything. You will inherit everything according to your marriage regimes. So, but should the spouse who was married customarily come back and say, this was my husband, this man paid lobola for me back in 1960 something, then it's going to give the spouse who's married is civil a problem, because that marriage was not ended. There is no decree of divorce. Then that man deemed to still be married to the wife that he paid lobola for. So we must also be very much aware. I know that sometimes we take these things for granted. We don't, we just say, I just paid half lobola and then we separated. It doesn't work like that. In the long run, that can give you a problem. Or if you had passed, it can give your wife that you are married in civil a problem. So we've got what we call the civil marriages. What is a civil marriage? Civil marriage, we've got three types of the marriage regimes in the civil marriage. So in these regimes, we have the marriage in commute of property and the marriage out of commute of property with the accrual system, and marriage out of commute of property with the accrual system. So the requirements of the civil marriage, they are the same as the ones for the customary marriage. But then with these ones, the marriage must be registered. So the marriage must be registered with the Home Affairs. So I won't go into detail with the requirements of this one because it's the same as the other ones. So let's now talk about the marriage in community of property. Marriage in community of property, I will say it's very much common and popular, and it's easy to conclude because financially you don't have to do anything. I think your marriage certificate costs around about 20 rand or something like that, but I know that it doesn't cost much. So most people, they don't know. When they get married, they didn't get any legal advices. What do? They enter into a marriage in community of property. So today you are very blessed. I'm going to tell you what the marriage in community of property entails. When you get married in community of property, it means that your estate gets joined. Now we've got one estate. So what do I mean by this? It is no longer your house that you have, it's our house now. So everything is ours. When one has a loan, so now this loan is ours. So if I have a car, that car now is ours. It's no longer my car. So in marriage in community of property, you get to share the profits and the losses. What do I mean by this? We decide that we want to get married. I have already bought myself a house. When we join together, we get married in community of property. That house now belongs to my husband or the wife. So now it means we have 50-50 in the property. It's both ours. So should it happen that the spouse who is funding the bond is unable to continue funding that bond, that means that I, as the spouse married in community of property, I do have the legal duty to make sure that that property is being paid for. So should it happen that it was a loan and I'm unable to pay for that loan, the bank has the right, if you're married in community of property and your spouse is also working, the bank has the right to come and then want their money from you. So should also one of you gets insolvent, it means your estate, both your estate is insolvent. So you might be asking yourself now that, what do I do when I'm married in community of property? And now that I have got this information, I want to change to be married, maybe out of community of property. So what you do, you need to approach an attorney, tell them that I got married way back. I didn't have any legal advices before I got married. So we didn't get the knowledge as to we've got different types of the marriage regimes. Because also normally with the Home Affairs, they also don't explain that you've got choices and what these choices are. So an attorney knows what to do. Section 21 of the Matrimonial Property Act allows you to change your marriage regimes. So for now, I understand that you might not know what are the other marriage regimes that you can change to. So we've got what we call marriage out of community of property without the accrual system. So now, let me just simplify things and tell you what is the accrual system. Your accrual system is it indicates your net increases in the value of your spouse estate from the date of the marriage. So it's also a formula that is used to calculate that if there's a larger estate and the smaller estate, then the equation must balance. Should your marriage not work out, this equation must balance. If there's one spouse who have acquired more assets, then the one who have acquired a little has a share on the one who acquired the larger estate. So with the marriage out of community of property without the accrual, you are not liable for anything. If your spouse gets insolvent, then that's his journey of being insolvent alone. If they have a property on their name and they cannot fund for that property, then you are not affected by anything. So what does this mean? It means whatever that is yours, and whatever that is mine is mine. We don't share anything on the marriage out of community of property without the accrual system. So we also have what we call marriage out of community of property with the accrual system. So this accrual system that I've explained, that we use it to calculate who acquired what from the date of marriage. So when you enter into a marriage out of community of property, with or without the accrual system, you must approach a notary to draft what you call an anti-nuptial contract. So a notary is also an attorney who is qualified to be a notary. So when you approach a notary, they will draft what you call an anti-nuptial contract. What is an anti-nuptial contract? An anti-nuptial contract, it's a contract between the two of you. You must indicate in that anti-nuptial contract whether you want the accrual system to apply or not. So if you want your accrual system to apply and you want to exclude certain assets that you already have acquired before your marriage, those assets must also be included in that anti-nuptial contract. So should you fail to include those assets that you have already acquired, then what does it mean? It means that now when we calculate your estate at the end of your marriage, then that property, if you didn't include it, it forms part of the estate. So if it increases your estate, then I have the smaller estate. Then it means the larger estate must balance the smallest estate. So we must be equal. We see if you have 100 rands and I have 50 rand, we must both have equal amount. So it is very important that when you decide to do marriage out of community of property with the accrual system, you must also include all the assets that you want to exclude. Then also, if should the marriage end or anything happens to the spouse in case of the interstate succession. So for all the marriage in community of property, what happens when a spouse passes on and you are married in community of property, you only get to share 50%. You keep your 50% because you are still alive. Then you share the 50% of your spouse. So if you've got kids, you will have the preference as you are married in community of property. You get the 25%, and then the kid gets to divide amongst them the 25%. So as I've indicated, that with the estate, it works either you die interstate or testate succession. So if you've got a will prepared for you, then your assets will go according to the will. So if you don't have the will, it's interstate succession. So I would advise you to take this information very serious, and then if you are not in the right legal ways, you must legalize. If you are cohabiting with someone, you must also make sure that you do your cohabitation agreement so that you protect yourself. So from my side, I am done with what I have prepared. So now I will welcome your questions.
Hello, can you please mute yourself? Okay, the first question is, from, okay, sorry, not from. My dad chased us from our family home and married someone else. He is no longer involved in my life and doesn't want to be involved. My partner doesn't want to pay lobola at my maternal side of the family and has called and pleaded with my dad numerous times, but my dad, numerous times to accept his money, but my dad refuses. I feel like there will be no resolution to this mess, and I think the best way forward is to go our separate ways. Please advise.
Okay. Was it that one question or it's two questions?
It's one question from one person.
Okay. So they've been chased out of the family home.
Yes.
Do they still have their mother? Were they married? Or they still married, or one
Let me read again. Okay, my dad chased us from our family home and married someone else. He's no longer involved in my life and doesn't want to be involved. My partner doesn't want to pay lobola at my maternal side of the family and has called and pleaded with my dad numerous times to accept his money, but my dad refuses. I feel like there's no resolution to this mess. So I think that,
that's a very complicated one. It's unfortunately that we do not have any legal remedies, because I've indicated that we both have choices. So if they don't want, we cannot force the partner to go pay the lobola wherever he wants to go, and the dad also, he doesn't want to be involved in anything. So I think what I can say, it's best for the couple to decide what do they want, what is the problem, why doesn't my fiance want to pay, my boyfriend wants to pay lobola to my maternal side. Why is that? So I think that is an issue between two couples who need to sit down, communicate, because according to the law, you don't have any legal remedies. So what she can do now, if they are still facing these challenges and they have, maybe they have acquired property together or anything, I would advise them for now to do the cohabitation agreement, because if he's giving her a problem now, with whom is he supposed to go pay the lobola for, then she might have a problem in a long run. So I would say that in the meantime, they can do, when they're trying to sort out their issues that they have, they can do the cohabitation agreement if they are staying together and they are acquiring assets towards their relationship. So it's best that they both protect themselves, because you don't want to find yourself losing your assets that you have paid for. And then now, let's say, what do I mean by this? Let's say that we acquire a house and a house is in the husband or the boyfriend's name, and I am funding the boyfriend and it's registered in his name only, then you might lose at the end, because you won't have anything to show the court that I was paying for this house. So I think it's best they do the cohabitation agreement while they sort out their issues. But legally, you cannot force someone to go pay lobola for you, or where are they supposed to pay this lobola to?
Okay, thank you for that. The second one, I think it's a bit related to the first one, but I'll just read it. My parents separated I want to get married, but her mother doesn't want to get involved. I think maybe she means his mother. I want to know if I can carry on with lobola negotiations without my mom's blessings, because I feel like my mom needs to be involved, but she doesn't. But she said she doesn't want to get involved with anything which involves my father. I'm confused because now I'm staying with the guy without being married because of my parents.
Okay. So with the requirements for lobola, the mother or your parents, if they don't want to get involved, let's say now in this case, it's the mother who doesn't want to get involved and her father is still alive. As long as they are over 18, and then it's by agreement that they want to get married. So their marriage, if they decide that they want to get married customarily or they want to go sign, then they can go do that without the mother's blessings. So it doesn't have any legal effect that one parent doesn't want to get involved in your issues of marriage. So they can go ahead and get married, decide which marriage regime they want to, and then register the same.
Thank you. Yes, it's Tiva now. I'm gonna be reading the questions from Facebook.
Okay.
The first one, it says, in customary law, is it still valid even if the people that signed the letter are no more? Will it not be questioned or challenged?
It will be.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, did you get my question?
Yes. So
Thank you.
if the people who signed the lobola letter, if you still have that letter to show that they paid lobola, then that cannot be questioned, because you do have that lobola letter, and the other party also doesn't dispute that they paid lobola for you. So that won't be challenged. And also, should one spouse, if you paid lobola and one spouse passes on, then you must to inherit, because when you report the estate, they will need the marriage certificate. You are allowed by the law to go register that marriage, even though the other spouse passed on. So you're allowed to register the marriage. So the court can compel the Home Affairs to register your marriage. So they will need that lobola letter to confirm that indeed you were married to this person.
Okay, thank you so much. And there's another one, I think this is the last one from Facebook. They're asking, so it means out of community of property without accrual is like Fat and said, African's marriage. So is the partner, if the partner dies, nobody gets anything?
No, it's not like that, and it's not Fat and said. So Fat and said is the cohabitation, that is Fat and said. So with the marriage out of community of property, you must remember the marriage is registered and your anti-nuptial contract is registered. So you are the legal wife to your husband, and you are the husband is the legal husband to his wife. So should one spouse dies, so it depends, as I have indicated that one dies, it's either interstate or testate. So should they leave a will, then it will go according to the will. So should that spouse not leave a will, so in that instance where you find that it was a family, it was the mother and the father, they married out of community of property without the accrual system, and they've got the kids. Unlike the marriage in community of property, you keep your 50% first. So if you are married out and out, that means that should one spouse dies and you've got kids, then the estate is divided equally. You don't have the first preference to keep your 50% and also get more, 25% on your spouse's assets. So without the accrual system, then the assets gets divided equally amongst the kids. So I would also give an example. Should you die intestate and then it's marriage out of community of property without the accrual system, and then the assets consist of, let's say, maybe 1,000, then that 1,000, if you are 3, they're going to take that 1,000 and divide it into 3. So you get equal shares as the kids. So with marriage in community of property, it's different. You get to keep your 50% first and also inherit 25% of your husband's. Sis Tiba?
Oh, yes, thank you. I think those were the 2 on Facebook. I'll keep a watch on Facebook if there's any more that are coming through. I think there's a couple here on Zoom. Lerato is gonna continue reading those. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this question is on customary marriage. The question is, so even in a monogamous customary marriage that was not reported to the court, is it still recognized when you break up?
Yes, it is recognized. As long as those requirements that I mentioned, they are applicable. Lobola was paid, was celebrated, negotiated, and then you are regarded as marriage customary. So should anything happen, if you want to end that marriage, you must approach the court to grant you a decree of divorce. Should your spouse die, then you are entitled. And also I've mentioned that when you in a monogamous customary marriage, then you are regarded as marriage in community of property. So you have the rights to get 50% of your spouse's assets.
Okay, thank you. The next one, what if lobola has been paid for you and you and your partner buy a house together and were never married, only the lobola was paid? On that process of buying a house, in the initial stage, you break up just before the house is registered in both your names. The partner did not contribute in paying the registration fees, the transfer fees. The partner did not contribute in paying the registration fees, the transfer fees, and also never contributed in the monthly fees of the house ever since the house got registered because of the breakup. How can a female partner remove the male partner so the house can be in the female partner's name only and not both? Is it possible? Mind you, the male partner has never contributed any money towards the house and has never stayed in the house due to the breakup. Please advise.
Okay. So normally when it comes to the end of marriage and the marriage is in community of property, even though it's very difficult to be granted what you call forfeiture. So forfeiture, what do I mean by forfeiture? The other spouse gets to forfeit their house share. So it is very difficult to do that, but I'm not saying that you cannot do that. If you've got enough evidence that your partner never contributed, you can only get maybe your partner to forfeit a certain percentage. So if they have 50%, you can ask the court that this person has never contributed to anything. And this is the documentary proof, because it must not be oral evidence. You must have documents to support your case. So if you do have those documents to show the court that I was the only one who was contributing, and then this man was the cause of our marriage to end, then the court can grant you an order that your spouse can forfeit a certain percentage. So when you want to remove him from that, from being registered, or you want the house to be registered in your name only, then you also need to approach the court. You must be divorced so that they can register, they can transfer, he can sign the rights, his rights to transfer the property in your name only. So you need to approach the court, file for divorce, and then in your papers, you must tell the attorney who's going to assist you that this is what I need, and it must be stated in your summons that they are going to serve your husband, that these are your wishes. This is what you want to achieve out of this divorce. So it is possible you can remove the other spouse from the property. So sometimes it happens that, okay, you are married in community of property, and then the spouse doesn't have a problem to forfeit the 50%. They're saying, no, you know what, I understand that you worked hard, you paid for this house, and then you can keep the house. So the attorney will have to draft what you call a settlement agreement. So on that settlement agreement, you stipulate that you forfeit the 50%, and then their house may be transferred to the other spouse alone. So there is a solution for that legally.
Okay, thank you. The next question. What happens if you are married in customary marriage, lobola being paid, and you celebrate the marriage and your partner already has a house and the marriage is not registered?
Your marriage, it's marriage in community of property. So should anything happen, you are entitled to 50%. So if that has been done, customarily paid lobola, then you are married in community of property, only if it's not a polygamous marriage. So if it's a monogamous marriage, you are married in community of property. So you do have a 50% over your husband's property.
Okay, the next question. Just for clarity, is half lobola a customary marriage?
Yes, it is. It doesn't matter whether the lobola was paid in full or it was just half. So it is, you are married in customarily.
Okay. If he comes and asks for the bride price, then pays 5,000, then he dumps you, is it still a customary marriage?
Yes, as long as those requirements were fulfilled. So it doesn't matter. Lobola, remember that it differs, families differs. One, they will charge you, we want 2,000 for our child to be married to you. So it doesn't matter. It's not measured in a monetary value. So any amount, as long as there's intention to get married, then you are married. If that money was paid to the other family. So yes, it doesn't matter whether it's 1,000 or how much.
Okay.
I think just to get in there, I think the person is trying to say 5,000 was paid instead of the whole money that was asked for.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, that it doesn't matter. I think that takes us back to half or quarter money was paid. Let's say they asked for 50,000 and he only paid 5,000. It is regarded that you are married customarily. Because remember, for you to pay that 5,000, it was negotiated. We concerted that we want to get married. And on that day, we celebrated our marriage. So all those three requirements already, they are there. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next question. How do you prove you were married if the lobola letter, the negotiation letter, is lost?
Okay. So normally you will have to get the people who were involved in your negotiations to dispose into an affidavit. So the affidavit must say that they confirm that so and so paid lobola on this day, and then they also indicate those requirements that the marriage was celebrated, negotiated, and whatnot. So you should get the people who were involved to do an affidavit so that you can show to court that our lobola letter is lost, and then now these are the affidavits to prove that we were customarily married.
Okay. What happens if you fell pregnant and the family took you to the baby daddy's family with no lobola paid? Is that regarded as a customary marriage? Then later, the lady decided to go back to her family, and by then she already has 2 kids. Then 2 years later, the baby daddy marries someone and pays lobola. Does the first lady have a legal right to claim any inheritance?
Only the kids will have the legal right to claim the inheritance, because the first one was not married. You were dating and you fell pregnant. So only the kids will have the claim in their dad's inheritance. So you as the ex-girlfriend, you don't have any legal rights to claim towards that estate.
Okay. Second last question. If you were married and got divorced, but on the decree of divorce, nothing was mentioned about what happened to our pensions, does the ex-husband have the right to claim the ex-wife's pension, even if both have remarried?
Yes, and that happens quite a lot, that you get divorced and the assets were not included in the decree of divorce. It happens a lot, that one. So they do have the right to go back to court and say, I was married to this person from this date up until this date. So our assets, our joint assets were not dealt with. So they want to claim 50% of the assets. So in these cases, what normally happens is you only claim up until the end of the marriage. So if you were married and then you acquired the assets and then get divorced, maybe in 2017 you get divorced, and then come 2019 you want to go back and claim for your 50% of the share, then they're going to calculate your 50% up until 2017 on that date that you got divorced. So yeah, it happens that you get divorced and then you were not properly advised legally. Then later, at the later stage, this comes to your knowledge. So you do have the right to approach the court to claim for your 50% share.
Okay, sorry. If there were no celebration as the man was supposed to come back and finish the lobola, does it mean we are married?
Yes, you are. That intention that he paid the lobola, then you are regarded as married customarily.
Okay, and the last question from me. You indicated that customary marriage should be celebrated. Please elaborate. And okay, I think the same question as the previous one. And in case where it's not celebrated, is it still recognized as a customary marriage? So,
okay. So in terms of the celebrations, I would speak from my culture. When the agreement has been reached, your negotiations has been reached, and then they agreed as to how much is your husband going to pay. So those ululations, it's part of the celebration. So when we we cook, we sit, we eat together, and then that's form part of the celebration. So couples decide. There are those who they pay lobola, even if they didn't finish the lobola. They call a pastor, and then the pastor blesses them. That's also part of the celebration. So even if the pastor is not there, that what do you call this? The celebration, the dancing, the songs that you sing after they have concluded the negotiations, that's part of the celebrations. So it depends, it differs according to the cultures.
okay, I think I've got one more question. What happens when one partner is in debt when married in customary? Do they come after another partner?
Yes. If it comes to the knowledge of the creditors that you are married customary. Remember, I've said that when you are in a monogamous customary marriage, you are deemed to be married in community of property. So if it comes to their attention, to the creditors' attention that this person has concluded a customary marriage, then they do have got the rights to come after you.
Okay, is damages considered lobola by law?
With damages, I believe they mean when you get pregnant and they go pay for the damages. So I will just, that's my understanding. I'm not sure what they mean. They can correct me if that's not what they mean. So if it's damages, if it's damages, you got pregnant with your boyfriend and then he goes pay damages, that's not lobola. It's damages for the kids. That is culture. Our culture do that. So that's not regarded as lobola. He only paid the damages according to the culture that when you made someone pregnant and they're not married, you must pay for the damages. So should the relationship end, you don't have any legal rights to claim maybe for spousal maintenance or for anything. Only you can claim for the maintenance of the child if the father is not paying for, is not supporting the child.
Okay, I was about to wrap up, but there's one more question.
Okay, no problem.
Is customary marriage the same as community of property, I think?
Yes, it's the same thing. If you are married customarily, as long as it's the both of you, then it's marriage in community of property. Unless if you are 5 or 3, then it's marriage out of community of property.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I'll wrap up from my side. I see there are still questions coming in. We will send them privately and respond to the people privately. We need to go to the next speaker now. So I'll
Okay.
hand over to Diba now.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Diba?
Hi, there's nothing on Facebook also from my side, that we've dealt with all the questions that arose from Facebook side. Thank you so much. Back